Howdy, folks. Welcome to another edition of All 12 Courtside. Appreciate you being here. I'm Rob Collins.
I'm Harold Coons. The big story this week in the Big 12, but what do you think it was, Rob?
Maybe a basketball game in Lawrence, Kansas.
Something around
little
1 second
fisticuffs at the field house.
Yeah,
maybe?
what are we talking? The Sunflower Smackdown?
Exactly. Sunflower Throwdown turned into a Smackdown right here.
To recap, the clock was winding down. K-State's DeJuan Gordon with a steal. Silvio De Sousa blocks his layup, and then you know what breaks loose around the benches clearing. Some punches were thrown. At one time, De Sousa decided, I'm going to get a stool here. And after the game, as you see more fighting ensuing, Bill Self had this to say.
That was an embarrassment on our part for the role that we played in it, and that's no way for mature men to act regardless of the situation.
Pretty stern words from Bill right there. Okay, the Big 12 handed down suspensions. De Sousa will sit 12 games. He will be eligible to return for the Jayhawks' regular season finale. That's Texas Tech. David McCormack suspended 2 games. Now from K-State, James Love suspended 8 games. Antonio Gordon, 3 games. Yeah,
and Bill was also distraught when he had learned that took place in the handicap section. You could see it visibly on his face when a reporter asked him about that, and then he kind of went, "You mean it happened?" So I can imagine there are some consequences inside that locker room that we may not know about, but the players will definitely feel.
Yeah, we'll have an inside scope on that one from Kenitra Pullums coming up. And she was at the game right there in Lawrence, and she's at every game for KU, so she'll have more to say. But K-State, the loss at KU was disappointing after a big win against West Virginia.
Yeah, Pete Francis with KSNT is in Topeka, has reaction from that side with Coach Bruce Weber.
Last Saturday when K-State upset a top 15 ranked team in West Virginia, it was the shining moment of an otherwise forgetful season. What happened at Allen Fieldhouse is something we'll never forget. Punishment has now been handed down for the brawl that's grabbing national attention. K-State's James Love has been suspended for 8 games by the Big 12, while Antonio Gordon has been suspended for 3 games. Here's what Bruce Weber had to say about the incident after the game.
You win with class, you lose with class. Disappointing that anything had to happen at the end, and that's all I can say. It's probably my fault. But I had told them not to press. I had told them not to foul. I told them back off. But the kids are young guys. They want to play hard. They were disappointed, frustrated. Played. You don't want to take that fire out of their belly, but at the same time, you got to handle it right.
So definitely a dark cloud over what's already been a tough season for the Cats. K-State is just 1-5 in Big 12 play and 8-10 overall. The Wildcats get out of Big 12 play this weekend as they head to Alabama to face off with the Crimson Tide. For All 12 Courtside, I'm Pete Francis. Back to you in KC.
All right, thanks, Pete. As I mentioned, Kenitra Pullums of ESPN Plus and KU goes to every game. She was there. And first off, I just want to hear your reaction from 1 second left. You're kind of preparing to do a post-game show, and then all of a sudden,
that's the thing. We're trying to get our thoughts together on whom we're going to interview and make our way to the post-game media room. And then all of a sudden you see, oh, it still happened. And the series before, there had been a series of blocks, by Ochai or David McCormack and Silvio De Sousa. So we're like, okay, a little defensive intensity to the end. And so the steal happens, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a block. And then the flexing started and the posterizing, and you're like, okay, what? And then it just ballooned from there. Just chaos ensued, and you're just like, what is happening? And then you see everyone rush from both teams, and it's like, this can't be happening.
When this was going down, where were you, and what could you see?
No, I was diagonal away from that. I was sitting across from the KU bench, like towards the end, and you're seeing this thing, and like it was just a mob, and you're just like, and then I couldn't see who all was involved, but I saw the chair being raised above head, like that's not good by whomever has it in his hands, and it was surreal that this was happening. You're like, okay, yes, this was a Sunflower Showdown. It's a rivalry game. And there have been other incidents between KU and K-State, court storming, but nothing like this to where both benches, and it was kind of like a mob mentality. So it was scary just to see that going on.
What was the sense of the crowd, since you were probably closer to the crowd than the melee?
Yes.
So what was the reaction from folks where you were?
You heard this like collective, whoa.
Wow.
And then, and of course, in this day and age, everybody has a phone.
Yep.
And so everybody has a phone, but I mean, even some of the still shots, you see fans mouth agape, hands to their face, almost like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone.
Yeah.
And just eyes bugged out, like, what? Because I mean, it's, you know, but down by the student section, by the band section, for the KU band section, and it's like right there, and it's just like, whoa, and you're just like, and then I saw, you know, one of the fans in the wheelchair, you know, with her support animal. And you're
Oh,
like,
boy.
this is really scary. That this is where it's happening. And even Bill Self said afterwards, he wishes, if not that he wanted a mob fight to happen, but contain it to the court. Don't take it into, you know, defenseless fans who were just there to enjoy the game, and they get pinned in this mob. You see a lady like on the floor with her hand around Silvio's leg, and it's just shock and just stunned.
Yeah, I was surprised at how fast Jarence Howard and the other coaches got in there. And big ups to Jarence. He put the bear hug and pinned Silvio against the wall, saving, I think, him maybe from more suspension.
Exactly. You see, because as Bruce Snyder said, it's just kind of like, okay, he didn't really see. He was going to shake Bill Self's hand, so he didn't really see. He had his back to everything happening. Then all of a sudden, all of KU rushes past him, you know, to the other end. And then you see, you know, Jarence Howard, and you see Coach Self, you know, take off running. You see Jeremy Case, another assistant coach, run in as well. And Bill Self has a hand on Silvio's jersey. Jarence, you know, kind of, you know, grabs the chair or the stool from Silvio's hand, and they're just, I mean, trying to wrap him up. And even afterwards, you still see, like, Silvio was still steaming. David McCormack was still hot. You know, like, it didn't just simmer down and dissipate. The emotions were still running high. And, you know, with the game already in hand, it didn't matter because it was almost like, you know, you're protecting your home court.
Yeah, now we see Bill Self afterward. After a loss, he's usually disappointed, very honest, but this one was a different tone from him. He didn't even have the players come out to sign autographs like they normally did. Was as many games as you've been to, is that as unique as you've seen Bill Self afterward?
Absolutely. I mean, you've seen him, you know, blowout wins. You've seen him after a national championship. You've seen him after, you know, blowout losses. But to see he was red with embarrassment, with anger, just maybe he was trying to process all that just happened. And he said he was so disappointed that the behavior of his players and how it was, you know, it was all about ego and selfishness. And the fact that gets lost in it is the outstanding career game that Christian Brown had. You have a local kid, his first experience in the Sunflower Showdown. So, you know, because there's really nobody else on scholarship on KU's roster to where it impacts him personally. And then he goes out and has a career night from three-point range, scoring, minutes played, and he doesn't get his, what we call,
he should have been the storyline.
his podium moment. He didn't get that. It was taken away from him by what happened by his teammates and by the other team. And so that's sad that we didn't get to kind of heap praise and ask Christian, like, what a game. You know, you're getting minutes, you're getting looks, you're shooting with confidence. You had a really great game and your team won the game. And he didn't get that moment. And so that's really unfortunate.
Now, going forward now, Kansas plays Tennessee, the Big 12 SEC Challenge. They're obviously down 2 guys. How do you feel Bill Self's going to adjust? I know he tries to do a lot of 4-guard lineup. Is he going to have to kind of rely on that, and Udoka's minutes going to have to go up?
He said that he wanted, you know, he was very intentional on trying to go with the 2 bigs. Well, now you don't have 2 of your 3 bigs. So it's all, you're like, Doka's, you know, because then all of a sudden it's like, I mean, not that you're going to rip Mitch Lightfoot's red shirt away, you know, not at this point in the season, but you wonder, can Jalen get healthy? It's like, you know, maybe 2 weeks away from him being back. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of bulk, but he has length that he can add in there. So you just wonder, how is Bill Self going to configure everything? The fact that, you know, Silvio is essentially gone for the rest of the regular season minus the last game at Texas Tech. David McCormack's gone for 2 games, so he'll miss Tennessee. He'll miss at Oklahoma State Monday night, you know, but then he'll be back. So it's, you basically have to kind of get through these next 2, and Oklahoma State is, you know, a team that's struggling. But still, it's 1 non-con game and it's 1 conference game. So to see how Bill Self says that the team, KU's best when Isaiah Moss is on the floor, and they can kind of, because he's a great ball mover and distributor. So the fact that you still have, because you wondered when everyone left the bench, because Your reserves were out of the game. Your reserves were in the game. Your starters were on the bench. Everyone left the bench. So is there any punishment, coming to your starters?
Right.
Marcus Garrett, Devon Dotson, like,
Yeah, it was dicey because if there was time or not left on the clock.
Right. The fact that it happened, reading like Jay Billis's article about just the parameters of the NCAA and how it deals with fighting. It's kind of a subjective thing. Yes, KU was reprimanded, the bench was reprimanded, as was K-State's. But the fact that there aren't going to be any additional suspensions, of those guards. So I don't know. I don't think Silvio. I mean, yes, he'll be missed, but he has struggled.
Sure.
This year, just
he
to
hasn't been the big part of the offense that he
find
wanted to
find his way. So I mean, Doak will still, it'll be Doak, it'll be Devon Dotson, and hopefully, whether it's Marcus Garrett or whether it's Ochai, or whether it's Christian Brown, maybe this is the start of some consistent play and scoring from him to be that third scoring option.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see going forward for sure with these guys.
Yeah.
So, Kenitra, thanks for joining us here on the All-12 Courtside, and be interesting how we go forward with this.
Yeah, great insight from someone who was there and witnessed it. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate that. All right, we need to check in with Baylor. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're still top of the league. And here's Matt Roberts with KWKT in Waco.
The Baylor Bears are the top-ranked team in the land for the second time in program history, the first time since 2017, where they only spent a week atop the polls that year, and they needed a strong effort down the stretch on Monday night to avoid Oklahoma, giving them a similar fate this time around.
Time and time again, it's shown that our defense can bail us out of some sticky situations, and tonight was no different. We just remind ourselves that that's what wins this game, so we had good defensive chemistry and locked up when we needed to.
Mark Vidal is the only player that was on that team that climbed all the way to #1 back in 2017, but this coaching staff learned some valuable lessons to help this program handle the success better this time around.
God's blessed us, allowed us to be #1 2 times now in the last, 3 years, and I think our staff's done a better job, and this time just with not all the distractions and more focus on we want to be #1 at the end of the year.
Now the Bears turn their attention to the Big 12 SEC Challenge, headed to Gainesville, Florida for a second time in 3 seasons to take on the Gators, which was their only loss in the 6-year history of the challenge.
It's a great honor representing the Big 12, and I think why we've been successful in the challenge games and our record speaks for that is because we take that very serious, and doesn't guarantee you're going to win, but I mean our guys have gotten up for those games.
Baylor and Florida tip at 7 p.m. on Saturday night. For All-12 Courtside in Waco, I'm Matt Roberts.
Thank you, Matt. And we just saw Auburn went down to Florida. They were 4th ranked and got blown out in Florida, so that's a tough place to play if you're the Bears, especially with the bullseye being #1 in the nation.
Most definitely. Get a lot of attention.
Yeah, this week was all about lessons learned for West Virginia. Now at K-State, the Mountaineers were taught what will happen if you take a night off, which is clearly what they did, right?
Yeah, 2 days later, they woke up. Angelica Trunown has the update from Morgantown.
It was a roller coaster week for number 14 West Virginia. First, the Mountaineers found themselves down by as many as 26 to a team that had yet to win a Big 12 conference game. By the final buzzer in Manhattan, Kansas, that had changed as the Wildcats came away with the 16-point win over the Mountaineers. 48 hours later, West Virginia looked like a completely different team as it almost put up 100 versus Texas on Monday.
We made shots and we're coming off being embarrassed. When we don't try to be what we're not, we're pretty good. We're pretty good at what we do, but we have to do it all the time.
And K-State was a learning experience, unfortunately. We like to learn as we win, but with young teams, sometimes that's not always your option. So for that to happen to us and for us to bounce back like we did tonight, it was really telling.
The 97-59 victory over the Longhorns was highlighted by one shot in the closing seconds. Freshman walk-on Spencer Mackey nailed his first collegiate three-pointer, sending the bench and the Coliseum into a frenzy. The Mackey mania went viral on social media, and it even made it all the way to SportsCenter, including a shout-out from Scott Van Pelt. That's the latest on the Mountaineers here in Morgantown. For All-12 Courtside, I'm Angelica Trenone.
Thanks, Angelica. Okay, TCU remains in the upper half of the conference. The Horned Frogs followed up a loss in Norman last weekend with a home win over Texas Tech. TCU opened up with an 8-2 lead, and the Red Raiders then found their rhythm. They led in the first half by as many as 8 at the half, but Texas Tech was up 54. TCU started the second half with an 18-5 run, and that kind of expanded the game as they went on to win 65-54.
Great win for us, puts us at 4-2, and needed it after the last two games. But just responded to how we responded, I thought was great. I told our guys, we tested what success rate would be with you give up 50% in field and 54 and 58 in the last two games. So I think the message has been sent. And
TCU's 4-game losing streak to the in-state Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Well, the Sooners got two impressive performances, one from their veteran players in a home win over TCU and a road loss to Baylor. Brian Brinkley is covering OU for us from K4 in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma had a week that sort of summed up their season so far. An impressive win at home and then a cold shooting night on the road that still almost produced a big upset. The Sooners took control early last Saturday at home against TCU and never were in danger of losing. OU shot 54% from the field and were led by junior forward Brady Manick, who scored a career-high 31 points and made a career-high 7 3-pointers. In the process, he became the 46th player in Sooner history to score 1,000 points for his career. OU won 83-63.
Collectively, I didn't shoot it well at all against Kansas, and I think it just played into me wanting to bounce back from that. And it frustrated me all week, and it tore me. But I bounced back, and teammates helped me. They found me when I was open, and I think we just moved the ball well today, and just played well as a team.
The Sooners had a quick turnaround after the TCU win, visiting the new #1 team in the nation, the Baylor Bears, on Monday night in Waco. Oklahoma had a cold shooting night, making just 35% from the field, but still had a chance to win late. A Brady Manick 3 cut the Bears' lead to 2. Manick had 21 to lead the Sooners, and then after a steal by Christian Doolittle, Austin Reeves had a 3-point attempt that could have given OU the lead in the final seconds, but it bounced out, and Baylor survived 61-57.
I can't say we had anything drawn up. It's a steal and it's a break, so it would take that, of course. Anytime we could get that with the game on the line. But that guy defensively in that last possession did a really good job to come up with a loose ball. That was the starting point, and then of course got a good shot in transition.
The Sooners are even at 3-3 in Big 12 play after the Baylor loss and will face Mississippi State in the Big 12 SEC Challenge on Saturday at Chesapeake Arena in Oklahoma City. And then OU resumes Big 12 play at Lon Kruger's alma mater, Kansas State, on Wednesday. For All 12 Courtside, I'm Brian Brinkley in Oklahoma City.
All right, the Red Raiders have had a big-time clash with Kentucky. That's coming up as part of that SEC Challenge after they lost to TCU.
Yeah, I heard some tickets down there are going for about $1,250.
Wow.
I love it. That's not even, I thought that was a lie at first, but they're really going for $1,000 down there at the old United Spirit Arena. So, hey, Kentucky brings bucks.
Must see TV.
Yeah. David Collier, KMAC in Lubbock, brings us with an update on Texas Tech.
Texas Tech heading into the week on a 2-game winning streak, thanks in part to the play of Kyler Edwards, who was named Big 12 Player of the Week on Monday after back-to-back 20-point games. That soured quickly, though, after Tuesday's trip to Fort Worth to face TCU. The Horned Frogs outscoring the 18th-ranked Red Raiders by 15 in the second half to hand Texas Tech a 65-54 loss, dropping Chris Beard's club to 3-3 in conference play.
From our perspective, we didn't play our best game, but you got to give the opponent credit. I thought they were the more aggressive team tonight. I thought Bain was fantastic, one of my favorite players in the Big 12. He took the game over tonight. He was the best player on the floor. I just want to give TCU credit and congratulations. There's a reason why they've won 4 Big 12 games already and doing a great job protecting their home court. We settled for jump shots. They were the more aggressive team defensively. So definitely they outplayed us in a 40-minute game.
And more bad news followed on Wednesday. Athletic Director Kirby Hocutt announcing on his weekly radio show that the NCAA denied Joel Ntambwe's reconsideration bid for immediate eligibility. Hocutt adding that they are in the final appeal process at this point and hope to hear a decision later this week. The Red Raiders now welcome one of college basketball's blue bloods to Lubbock. Texas Tech faces 15th-ranked Kentucky Saturday at 5 at United Supermarkets Arena. I'm David Collier with the latest here in Lubbock. Let's send it back to you in KC.
All righty, thank you. The Red Raiders and Kentucky is not a common matchup. It's the 5th meeting ever between the two schools, the first since 1994. The Wildcats have won all 4 of those previous meetings. Well, the Texas Longhorns have lost 2 in a row, including one of the worst losses in school history. We check in with Roger Wallace at KXAN in Austin, covering the Horns.
It was a tough week for the Texas Longhorns after a hard-fought loss to Kansas on Saturday at home. They went to West Virginia Monday night and absolutely laid an egg. At one point, West Virginia outscored Texas 28-2 on their way to a 38-point win, the worst under Shaka Smart. After a 10-1 start, the Longhorns fall to 12-6 and 2-4 in the Big 12.
Well, this has to be a turning point for us, for sure. You know, we can play a lot better than that. We didn't tonight. There's some reasons behind that. Those all need to be put out on the table and addressed. And then we need to be, I think the biggest thing that our guys can take from tonight is there's certain things, if you don't do them, you're not going to win. I don't care who you're playing against.
Horns step out of conference for the Big 12 SEC Challenge Saturday. LSU is in Austin, coached by Will Wade, former Shaka Smart assistant at VCU. In fact, he replaced Shaka Smart at VCU, and he's got LSU undefeated in SEC play. That's the story in Austin. Back to you in Kansas City.
All righty, Iowa State got back on the winning track with a win at Hilton Coliseum over Okie State.
Yeah, our man John Sears, WHO Des Moines, has more on the surging Cyclones.
Iowa State picked up a much-needed win on Tuesday over Oklahoma State. And it always helps when you hit 11 threes and get a career game from your post player. Solomon Young, 27 points, 10 rebounds, down low.
My boy looked like Shaq today. I mean, he just high seals, really burying people, establishing a post presence for us. He really helped us. And then he was at the free throw line hitting free throws too. I mean, he was hooping. So
I think I was just being really aggressive, trying to post every position, run the floor, trying to be, the best defender out there. I was just trying to do that for 40 minutes. I feel like we've had problems with, our first half be strong, and our second half we don't come out as strong. So I figured that, I just go as hard as I can for 40 minutes straight.
Whoever's playing well needs to play. I mean, you saw that again tonight. We got it's the second half of the year. We got to go who's being efficient and who can help us, win. I mean, we got to win games. I mean, that's just that's our job, and we got to keep getting these kids better.
The Cyclones now step out of conference play for the Big 12 SEC Showdown Saturday on the road at number 16 Auburn. In Ames, reporting for All Big 12 Courtside, I'm John Sears, WHO TV Sports.
From the wonderful city of Ames to the wonderful city of Auburn. That's lovely this time of year, I'm sure. All right, 6 games into conference play. Oklahoma State, the Pokes, still looking for their first win, Rob.
Yeah, having a rough go. But we go back to Brian Brinkley at K4 in Oklahoma City, who's covering the Cowboys.
Oklahoma State's early conference season struggles continued this week with 2 difficult games at home against then number 2 ranked Baylor and then a visit to Hilton Coliseum to face Iowa State. The Cowboys played probably their best conference game so far last Saturday at home against Baylor. OSU led by 9 at halftime and by as many as 12 in the second half, led by the play of Cameron McGriff and Isaac Likely. But the Bears went on a 19-4 run to take the lead, and the Cowboys fell short 75-68 for their 5th straight loss to open Big 12 play.
I think we're really close, but there's also another thing we have to understand is that every game is different. We just played harder. I mean, we're finding our groove amongst ourselves. It's not really just one resolution, to winning basketball games. So, we just have to stick to it and just continue to play the right way. I mean, we still haven't gotten the result that we wanted, but we're just trying to stay positive and stay in high spirits.
Tuesday night in Ames, OSU struggles continue. The Cowboys got great balance in their scoring with 6 players totaling between 12 and 14 points. But the Cyclones went on several runs in the second half to extend their lead, and Solomon Young had a career-high 27 points to lead Iowa State to the 89-82 win. The Cowboys fall to 0-6 in Big 12 play for the second time in 4 seasons.
Well, congrats, Iowa State. Played a really good game. Obviously shot the ball extremely well from 3. I quite honestly thought the difference in the game, the key to the game, was Solomon Young. He certainly gave him a different look that we obviously didn't have an answer for most of the night, and we got to keep working to try to figure it out.
OSU gets a break from Big 12 play as they visit Texas A&M Saturday in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and it's back home to host Kansas on Monday night in Stillwater. For All 12 Courtside, I'm Brian Brinkley in Oklahoma City.
All right, we've talked about the big matchups this weekend. Well, here they are. A complete rundown for you, the Big 12 SEC Challenge. All games are on Saturday, starting with Missouri and West Virginia. Iowa State goes on the road to Auburn. Mississippi State visits OU in Norman. LSU travels to Austin to face the Longhorns. Tennessee will be at Fall Gallon Fieldhouse to take on KU.
Yeah, that's a pretty intriguing matchup there at the latter end. Oklahoma State visits former Big 12 foe Texas A&M. TCU and Arkansas in Fayetteville. Kentucky, Texas Tech squaring off in Lubbock. Those are the only matchup of ranked teams. Kansas State takes on Alabama, and Baylor takes on number one Baylor. Goes to Florida to take on the Gators. The Big 12 has won 4 of the 6 Big 12 SEC challenges.
The Kentucky matchup should be pretty good with the Red Raiders.
Yeah, that's probably going to be an intriguing one. It'll be a good atmosphere, too. I'm also curious to see LSU and Texas, because Texas needs a couple wins, try to rebound. LSU right now first place in the SEC as well, so that should be intriguing.
They played one heck of a football game earlier this year.
Yeah, they did. That was a close one in Austin. Close one in Austin. Maybe they'll have a close one in basketball. Check out the conference standings. Baylor undefeated, Kansas a game behind, followed by West Virginia and TCU. Oklahoma and Texas Tech both at 500. Texas and Iowa State 2-4. K-State 1-5. And of course, the Pokes of Oklahoma State still looking for that first conference win. They'll have a chance against a somewhat depleted Kansas squad. And Bill Self always struggles in Stillwater.
He does.
I can say that. I used to live in Oklahoma. I know he used to go down to his alma mater, and poor Self would have a little struggle down there. So we'll see if Oklahoma State can get their things back.
There's always something about when Self goes back to Stillwater.
When you go to the still waters of Stillwater, some things just sometimes don't work out. I can tell you that. But yeah, if you want to go to Eskimo Joe's and get some cheese fries, by all means, you'll gain about 5 or 6 pounds. Good serving.
Put it on Harold's tab. Thanks
Please
for
do.
joining us, guys. We appreciate y'all being here for Harold Coons. I'm Rob Collins. We'll see you back next week right here on All 12 Courtside.